To you guys becoming cloud engineers, I think it adds a lot of value for us to discuss the roles and responsibilities of a cloud engineer, right? So let's do that now. Right, guys. I think when we're talking about the roles and responsibilities for a cloud engineer, it is very, very important to understand that as a cloud engineer, you will be handling a lot of data, right? You might say that, hey, I'm just learning right now, there's not a lot of data that I might handle. That's true. But once you go on to complete your learning, when you're working on industry level use cases and projects, there's a good chance that the data that goes into making an application that the data that you have to use is a large quantity. Now, to manage this data, you're going to require some skills. So, as always, as a responsibility, you're responsible for the data that you're handling. Of course, the second thing is how you manage the data, how you store it, how you ensure that as and when data is required to be accessed, deleted, or updated, you have the capability to provide services for that. Right now, a client might come to you and say, "Hey, you're a cloud engineer. I cannot access this part of my data, or something's wrong here. Why?" So you have to own up to that. If it's your mistake, or sometimes it so happens it's the cloud provider changes something in its back end, they would have notified saying, "Hey, we're changing this," or whatever you might have done, you might have to change a little in your application and all of that. If that is not done, again, it comes to a point where, hey, an application stops working because AWS updated something and the cloud engineer couldn't rapidly scale up to make sure the latest software or hardware is used, or whatever it is, right? So that's a huge responsibility, which usually goes unsaid until you get a job and then you're on the floor and this happens. So I thought this is a very important thing that you guys should know right now, as you're learning. So it'll add a lot of value going ahead, guys. Perfect. The next, the roles and responsibility section that we're going to have to check out is the actual design and development of an application. Now, the entire point of using a cloud computing platform is probably to move your application or your data to the cloud computing platform, right? Now, when you're moving your data and your application there, when you say moving your application, first of all, you have to have the capability to develop, design, and test all of these things and to make sure they work as they're expected to, right? So in this particular case, you're going to need the skills that is required, especially if you're working to becoming a cloud developer, right? So if you're working to become a cloud developer, you need to know the latest and the greatest development technologies. You might need to know a programming language. You need to know the programming standards. You need to know methodologies of software development, all of these things, right? This understanding all of this will also help you to branch yourself into the multiple subdomains that exist in cloud computing. So it's very vital that you guys are planning and you're understanding software development, application development alongside your learning of the cloud computing platforms itself. So this is a very, very important point. The next thing is, as a cloud engineer, it'll come to a point where sometimes you have to also provide, maintenance for the applications, maintenance for the data, maintenance for the platform itself, and all of that. So having the cloud architecture maintenance knowledge is something which is very, very important here. If you have the latest and the greatest application running, you have millions of customers and all of that, but it so happens if your application, is probably running on an older version when the newer version is out, or there are issues, bugs haven't been fixed, there's a bit of downtime, server maintenances, all of these things will eventually hurt the user experience, right? Now, someone who wants to do a critical banking transaction or something, they have to send urgently money to someone. If they just log into the net banking and the net banking says, sorry, we are, something doesn't work, the page doesn't load or something, that is a very, critical thing, right? The same thing happens in the healthcare industry as well. Maybe there's like a brain MRI or something that needs to be analyzed and they're using a cloud computing platform to do this. So the MRI is done. At the end of the day, they want to move it to the cloud to verify it and analyze it and all of that. And if that doesn't itself load, well, again, there's a hold up, especially if it's a critical thing such as healthcare, finances, and all these things. Well, you know what's going to happen, right? So it's very, very vital to understand that not only development is important, but alongside development, maintenance of whatever is being developed is important as well. The roles and responsibilities of a cloud engineer. Let us dive a little deeper into understanding the roles of a cloud engineer now. There are many important designations that I think you guys might already have heard of. Think about the designations such as a cloud architect, a systems engineer, security analyst, and there's a fantastic designation called as a cloud network developer as well. Now, these are very, very popular designation. Each of these designations again have a lot of impact on the working of the platform itself. Their salary trends are again absolutely fantastic, and I'm a huge fan of this domain for that particular reason. Is that it of course takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of time and effort to learn the domain, but once you do it, on the other side of things, well, you get rewarded handsomely for it, right? So that's an important thing. Now, there's usually not just the case where you have 3 or 4 designations and a cloud engineer has to be a part of that. There's usually many, many types of cloud engineer roles out there. For example, you can take a look at 3 more types of diversifications, right? You have a systems engineer, you have a cloud application engineer, you have a cloud solutions architect, and all of that. So these you might have usually heard of whenever there is talk of certification programs and all of that. But why are people wanting to get certified to have this kind of a designation, right? They're trying to prove that for being a cloud solutions architect, it takes a lot of work. A cloud solutions architect will know the in and out of that particular domain, so definitely takes a good amount of learning, right? But understanding that you do not have to always work towards becoming a systems engineer. You do not have to always work towards becoming a network engineer in this domain. You can do a lot of different things that you can choose to inside the domain of cloud computing itself, right? But then to get to that, well, you have full courses like this that will definitely get you started by understanding the domain, before you can, look towards all of these as well. But then having the knowledge about all of these, I think is very, very important, right?